Hey, everybody. Good morning. I say good morning. It's still morning in my neck of the woods. I am not on the East Coast like Andrew and a lot of other people. I am actually in the mountain time zone. So for me, it is still morning. I'm still drinking coffee. You might have a beer with you at this point. I just got back from New York State last week and everybody was drinking beer for breakfast. I had a blast, by the way. If anybody from New York State is on this session, I would love to hear from you in the comments. But I had a blast at your craft brewers conference. My name is Julie Rhodes. I'm hoping that a lot of you know me from just being in and out of this group pretty often and working with Andrew. And this is not my first rodeo when it comes to the virtual conferences with craft beer professionals. So if you don't, I am the owner and operator of Not Your Hobby Marketing Solutions. So it is a basically consulting and education company for small to medium sized craft beverage businesses. I'm a strategic business consultant and I help folks with their selling strategies, their marketing strategies and plans, and also distribution management. Oh, John's in here. Hi, John. I know John. Thanks for coming. I know you're on coffee still because it's early there. So thanks for waking up with me. But also, I want to say a big thank you to Andrew as well and the Craft Beer Professionals Group for having me again. And also thank you to Jason Sleeman and Aseptic Fruit Purees and Carrie Shumway over at Craft Brewery Financial Training. And also, who else is in the mix of all of this? And then also, yeah, is that it for sponsors? Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you. All right, making sure because those are also my friends too. So not only sponsors, but I like to support my friends as well. So, anyways, I am going. Oh, Josh is here. I know Josh from H Town. And oh my gosh, Jesse's here. From Queza Craft Brew. I hope that I'm saying that correctly. If you haven't looked up Queza Craft Brewing in Rwanda, you need to go check it out. It's absolutely amazing. So, oh my gosh, thank you for being here from across the other side of the planet. I'm honored. We are going to talk about selling strategies today. Actually, more specifically, sales efficiency. For those that have seen me speak before, you know my slides are pretty serious. I decided to kind of change things up and be a little playful this morning. I'm a Gen Xer, so Super Mario and, Nintendo was a big part of my, I say childhood, adulthood, like just in general. So yeah, that's where we went this time because I am talking about patching up your leaky sales pipeline. I will fast forward here. Here we go. This is a haha funny. If you want my slide deck, you can read a little bit more about me and why I'm actually qualified to be talking to you about this stuff today. But know that I run in the same circles as all of you. I've been in this industry for over 2 decades. I sit on committees with the BA. I'm a BA mentor. I'm on the Pink Boots National Board of Directors. I have been on the supplier side of sales and done distribution management as well. I was service industry. So there's all kinds of fun things in there. Enough about me. Let's get to stuff. First, I like to kind of set the tone for what we're going to be talking about today. And really, it's, what the fuck is a sales pipeline, right? Andrew, I should say, what the fudge? Anyways, let's talk about what that actually is. It sounds super fancy. It's not when we get into it. And I will tell you this right now, when I start talking about this, like not so sexy sales concept, because it is more digging into like the sciencey side of sales and like the psychology side of sales, is that it is relevant to everyone in this group. I don't care if you are a brewery in planning. I don't care if you're a nano brewery, if you are a small footprint brewery that just started selling in wholesale, even if you're just thinking about, honestly, you could, this is more geared today towards like selling in the wholesale channel, but you could take this concept of selling by science and apply it to customer service or taproom sales across the bar. Really, if you think about it, once we get into the elements of it, you'll see why. It's for the beginner sales rep. It's for the intermediate sales rep. It's for the veteran sales reps. It's for national accounts. It's for chain sales. It's for owners that are also doing sales. It's for your part-time delivery driver that's doing swing sales a couple times a week. It's for your brewer that's doing sales in the part-time, like on odd hours. Basically, this applies to everybody. It's not just a high-level concept that is going to be irrelevant for a lot of people just getting started. So that's why you should care. Yes, it applies to you. So we're also going to talk about why it's even relevant. Why are we talking about this right now? It's something that you should always have as like a skill set. Nice to have, but it's especially important right now with the current status of the marketplace for craft beer and craft beverages in general. Then we're going to talk about how to use it, how it actually works. We're going to dig into a little bit of like how you can track the certain elements in your pipeline. And then we'll talk about how to fix the leaks in your pipeline, which happen quite often. Before I get heavy into this, I just want to say I am keeping an eye on the YouTube feed on my phone, and then I get the Facebook comments right in front of me. So if you have questions, please put them into the chat. If it's anything sales related, beer sales related, feel free to put them in there. And I will get to them at the end. I'm long-winded. I'm from the South, so I don't like to take questions as I go because I get off on a tangent and then I'll just talk forever about this kind of stuff. So I'm going to save them to the end, but if you have questions, please put them in there and I will definitely address them. If we run out of time, I'm going to have my contact info at the end of the presentation, so that you can feel free to just ping me. I'm a one-woman show with this company, so everything comes to me. You can just shoot them out to me and we will address your questions. All right. So I'm going to ask for some interaction here if you can. Normally when I ask this question to people about these numbers that are on the screen, I'm kind of polling like a live audience. And these are some of my favorite like scary numbers right now. So we're just going to see if anybody wants to be brave and like jump in here. 22,000. Anybody have a clue what I'm referring to? Like when it comes to the beer space, 22,000. I know this isn't like an interactive poll, but if you feel like you want to throw something out in the comments, you totally can. I want this to stick in your brain. This is actually the number of craft beer brands that are being sold in the wholesale channel. That's the kind of competition that you're facing right now. If you package and Kyle, different styles of IPA. Yeah, you're close. You're very close. Jesse, you're close. It's the number of like craft beer SKUs. Brands fighting for shelf space. Yeah, Laura, that's Start a Brewery, Laura Lodge. Yes, you're very close. That's impressive. Most people don't say a thing. So thank you guys. Anyways, that is the scary landscape that we are facing. When you are talking about retaining shelf space or being sold on the tap. Oh, Pierce, thanks for being here. Pierce is one of my client partners. Shout out to Common House Ale Works in North Charleston, South Carolina. It is worth a visit if you're anywhere close to that. Please go see him. And he is a doll to work with, and his team is amazing. So thanks for being here, Pierce. But 22,000, the number of brands that you're going to go head to head with if you want to get on a shelf somewhere. The reason we have that so many now is because everybody started packaging stuff when it came to, if you're drinking this morning, take a drink. I'm going to say COVID. That's what happened is people started packaging and we get like a flood of brands and so on and so forth. But it makes it challenging. That's a lot, right? $3.1 million. Anybody want to take a stab of that? It's not how much money I make. I wish. That would be nice. I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now if that's what I was making. It's also not what I have in my IRA, which I wish that was the case, but that's not. Anybody want to take a guess at 3.1 million? It's not the size of the craft beer market. I'll give you a hint. Lost during the pandemic on on-premise. That's a good guess, Laura. That's very good. That is it. That's not it, but it's close. Anyways, that is the dollars that ranch water alone brought in 2022. Just that category, ranch water, right? The reason why is this relevant for me, Julie, and craft beer? Because that is $3.1 million that craft beer lost. It has to be, maybe not specifically, but other beverage choices, right? That wasn't new, wasn't incremental. It has to come from somebody else, right? So the point I'm making is that it's hard out there, and we are losing sort of top of mind, brand space with people in their heads, younger consumers. They're, darting around, drinking different things. Anyways, 1 million. That's the final number that I'm going to give you, and then we're going to move on. Anyone? Bueller? That's also from my generation. Okay, 1 million. This is actually not my number. The wonderful, brilliant Jeff Allworth from Beervana. This is from him. He has if you just Google like Jeff Allworth and 1 million, you're going to find a really, really great blog post from him, talking about, just with the number, that's literally like the number of brands that are in the craft beer space right now, not necessarily being sold at wholesale, but just in all, taking like a rough estimate of the 9,000 plus craft breweries that are out there, and with like an average number of brands that they put out in the market. So anyways, to wrap this up, it's scary. Things are crowded. Why do we need to think about this? Because this is the kind of challenge that you're going to face in sales, in outside sales, right? Okay, so what the F is the sales pipeline? It's basically a visual representation of the buyer, the owner, whoever you're selling to, right? A visualization of where their head is at in the game, right? It's their decision-making process. Why do we need to know this? Sales is a science. I like to tell my clients and people beyond that as well, is that sales cannot be what I refer to as spray and pray, which is, you just like put yourself out, like, here's all my stuff, and I'm just going to hope that things are going to work, right? There's no thought behind it. There's no intention. There's no purpose, which is not an efficient way to do sales. Well, so how can we systematize it, right? Which I adore that word. Like, how can we make it more efficient? Think about it in the same as like back of the house, right? You have like SOPs, you have very distinct processes. There's like checklists, there's records, there's spreadsheets, all that kind of stuff. We need to have the same thing for sales. Just as much as that works for back of the house, you should have that same kind of situation for front of the house. And when I say front of the house, I don't mean tap room, although you should probably have procedures for that as well. But I'm talking about your outside sales and your sales team, or whoever is doing the sales for you. So it's the science of how buyers are making decisions about what they want to purchase. Now, this happens very quickly. Depending on the buyer that you're talking to, it could be a slow decision-making process. It could be a fast decision-making process. But people go through the same kind of process of elimination, and like, okay, I'm going to listen about your brand, and then I'm going to gather information, and maybe I want to look at the competitors, or I'm looking at things like price, or how much brand awareness you have, like how much of a footprint you have. Will people be able to recognize this? Are you supporting your brand? All those things feed into the pipeline and help them make an educated decision for their own place of business, right? So this is also a visualization of how we take cold accounts, right? Like we're making cold calls, right? And then turning them into a buying account by asking for the sale and having them purchase, and then also into regularly buying accounts, because there's a retention piece of this that you have to think about as well at the tail end of everything. If it was up to me, I would kind of take this sales concept and rework it so it looks more like a wheel instead of a pipeline. But I like to tell people, think about it like a fountain pipeline, where it's like, okay, build up, and then fountain comes out, right? And then it gathers and then it recirculates. So that's kind of how you want to think about that sort of pipeline. It's also a way that we can track efficiency in our selling techniques, right? And our sales tactics. So if we have a leaky pipeline, like if shit goes wrong along the way. We have to know how to recognize it. We have to know why it sprung a leak. And then we also need to know how to fix it and how to patch it up so that we can more efficiently move liquid. Just a nice segue for what I'm about to talk about next. All right. So this is actually what a pipeline looks like, a sales pipeline for most businesses, not necessarily beer. Like I'm going to give you my specific pipeline for beer here in just a second. Also, if you want it, God, Andrew, I should have put the link to this in the comments. Sorry, I forgot. If it just ping me after the presentation, if anybody wants, I'm happy to give you a copy of the PDF of my pipeline tool that I use. But this is kind of how things start, right? You've got the beginning of the pipeline where you have like prospects. This is like, I think, this account could really benefit from carrying my brand because I feel like we have the same end goal, which is sales, right? Take, for example, like if I own a liquor store and, I'm located really close to like and I'm just doing this off the cuff, by the way, so just bear with me as my gears like spin through this. If I'm located near a university campus, I know that most of my customers are probably going to be in like the younger drinking set, right? So maybe I am looking at the drinking habits of people in the age range of like 21 to 28. Right? And what are they drinking right now? Okay, maybe they're drinking Imperial IPAs. I keep up with data, by the way. So that's, we're drinking high octane IPAs and we're drinking larger can sizes and things like that. So if I'm a supplier and I have a double IPA in a 19.2 can and I'm trying to sell to a liquor store right across the street from a college campus, I'd be like, hey, Julie, owner of Julie's liquor store, I see your customer base is mostly like younger legal drinking age folks. And I know from the data reports and things that I've been reading from the market that lots of younger folks are gravitating towards like, Imperial sort of IPAs in a larger can size. And guess what I have? Right? So, but before you have that conversation with somebody, you've got to put them on what we just refer to as like a target list. It's a list of prospects. It's a list of places where you're not currently selling anything that could be a really good fit for your brand. So you would put Julie's Liquor Store on your prospect target list, right? And then you want to think, and I kind of jumped ahead of myself here, which I pretty often do. You've got to think of a reason to like qualify that, right? Why does that make sense? Younger people are drinking these things. I have these things to offer. I've qualified it. There's a reason for me to go in there. If it is like a sushi restaurant right across the street from a university place and they don't serve any beer, I'm going to X that out because I've qualified that as they don't even have beer. That's not a good target for me, right? Get it off the list. Next, it's about the call, right? The account visit, the account touch, however that is. Now, these days, that could be across the bar. It could be physically in person. It could be an email. It could be a phone call. It could be a text message. It could be a DM on social media. It could be any of those things. It could be an introduction from your distributor sales rep that you're like out working the market with them. You actually have like a call point where you're establishing contact and you're introducing yourself. The proposal is a big giant long phase because that's where we are supporting and giving supporting information, trying to say like, hey, I have this value add for your business and I can, tell you that I have this, XYZ. I have all these things to offer. This is why you should take my product and why it's a good fit for your business. The close would be just asking for the sale. So do you want to bring in a case of whatever, Julie's double IPA? And then the last piece of that would be retention, right? This is that loop that I was talking about. Your sales do not end at the close. Your sales do not end when you actually make the sale. Yes, that's one phase of it that ends, but then you're starting a new one. Now, with retention, you don't have to go all the way back up to prospect and qualify, but you do have to go to the call point again and then repeat, because repeat business is going to be the lifeblood of your business. If somebody hasn't heard this before, it's always cheaper and easier to get incremental sales from existing customers than it is to cold call and go out and find new ones. And when I say cheaper, I'm talking time and effort, and gas is not super cheap right now, travel costs, things like that. Okay, so Julie, what does this look like for the beer world? I know this is really small. I know. I'm sorry. Don't yell at me in the comments. Please don't scream at me. It's on a nice PDF. Like I said, I can send it to anybody. Andrew, when I'm taking questions, I'll try to find the Google Drive, like share link, and I'll just put it in here for everybody to have. But I created this honestly years ago, and I update it every year for like our changing market conditions. But what this is that all those colored boxes on the left are a representation of a craft beer sales pipeline. The little brackets in the middle are the decision-making process points, like the milestones that a buyer would go through in their head. Sometimes, a buyer is not going to say like, hey, I'm in the exploration phase, so I need to know like what your name is. Like, that's not going to happen. This is building block technical stuff behind the scenes. So you're not going to have like a verbal milestone or any type of visual milestone of these different decision-making points here in the middle. And this is what I'm talking about. Ooh, I have a pointer. Like awareness, exploration, consideration, purchase, and loyalty phase. But that is where your buyer's brain is. This is what you're doing, and this is where their brain is at, right? I like to give people examples. So these things in yellow, these are typical things that sales reps do in the market to channel their buyer through these different phases so that we can get here where we're selling things and making dollars, right? Purchase and then repeat purchase. Also, if you're already familiar with sales and you are thinking about like different account levels or tiers, this would be where that is, like cold call up here, right? Potential accounts, leads, establishing good targets by qualifying them, turning them into a new buying account, and then eventually turning into what we call a key account, which is like our most important customers, the ones that are bringing in the most volume or the most revenue. Those are the ones that we want to covet the most for this post-purchase loyalty phase, because it makes sense for us to do it. It's efficient, it's lean, right? So just some of the things that are on here in these little hard to read yellow sections would be like, I'm using data to put together a target list. By the way, do I like Untapped? For the reviews, I kind of feel like the same way with production people. It's a little like, but here's the thing. Have you ever used Untapped as like a prospecting tool for sales? There's locations in there that are like trending. There's drinks that are trending. You can see what's going on with your brand. Awesome thing called Google, right? Go to your state liquor enforcement board or whatever, pull a list of licensees. If you have fancy software, go to VIP or LilyPad and look at unsold, or pull a distribution report, right? It's collecting leads to make up a target list, figuring out how to route that out, right? Next part of this is like introducing yourself, dropping off a business card, making that first point of contact, making sure you set a good like first impression. Here's another thing for this. Don't throw everything out there. You will scare the ish out of your buyers, right? Think of it like dating. You don't throw everything out there on a first date. It's like small talk, get to know you. Let's get comfortable with each other. The reason that you want to do that is because you want to see that person again, right? If you like them, you want your buyer to want to see you again. Like, can you come back next week and bring me samples? Or I'm going to come by next week and drop off a sales sheet or price points or whatever. You want to set yourself up for success by establishing more touch points. And when you know where you are in the pipeline, it makes it easier to do that, right? So this consideration phase, I actually should make this a lot bigger because it really is like quite large. in that it's like follow-up visits, follow-up phone calls, emails, text messages, things like that. You're building a relationship with that account and that buyer. It's giving them pieces of brand value that prove why you deserve a spot in their business, whether it's a tap handle, shelf space, whatever it is. Finally, purchase. All of this work is for nothing unless you ask for the sale. You have got to get yourself confident to a point where you can ask for the sale. Can I put you down for a sixtel of whatever? Can I make sure that my wholesaler punches you 5 cases of my fruited sour, right? However you want to phrase it. And that's something, it's like a pair of shoes. You got to figure out what kind of closing technique you're comfortable with. Yes, it sounds gross and like salesy and I've heard all the things. I know it feels uncomfortable, but you have to practice it and do it enough to where you feel comfortable, because we are in the habit of selling things, hence the name of my company. This is not a home brewing hobby. We all have business licenses. We're in the game of selling things. We have to sell beer. We have to ask for the sale. And the more you practice it, the better it's going to feel. And the more you prepare the buyer and the more you say, like, this makes sense for your business and it makes sense for me. That's called a value exchange. And when you have a balanced value exchange, that's when it doesn't feel so icky to ask for the sale. It feels like a natural progression of things. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Then you get into the loyalty phase. We got key accounts here. This is getting creative. It's kind of like when you've had a product that's been around for a while and you're trying to think of like new innovative ways to like use it or drink it or spins on it. You want to think about getting creative with your account, right? Like what kind of creative promotion you can do, or can you build a display or something like that to sort of keep things spicy. All right. So how do we actually track this data? All right. I did this in 3 buckets. Hopefully this makes sense to everybody. I got the fancy stuff on the left. I got middle of the road in the middle. And then I got like DIY beginner on the right. I just figured that was the easiest way to do it. This is not a comprehensive list of tools to use to track pipeline data, but it's a lot of tools that I have used myself that I've found success with. I don't lean towards any of these because it depends on your situation. It depends on if you're self-distro or if you're aligned with a wholesaler. It depends on how much tech knowledge you have or how comfortable you are with software, how comfortable you feel with spreadsheets, things like that. So know that this is not customized for any of you out there. These are just suggestions, and you're going to have to dig into each one of these options, like I said earlier, like a pair of shoes, to see what fits and what feels good for your brand. On the left is LilyPad or VIP Karma Notes. Those are great if you're aligned with wholesalers, especially a lot of wholesalers, because it puts data, account level sales data, into a really efficient place. Those are also wonderful CRM programs, which is short for customer relationship management program. It's how we actually track all the phases of a sales pipeline so that you know what the hell is going on in the market. In the middle, you've got kind of middle of the road stuff. John, I agree. Those are game changers. If you have a lot of distributors, those are money well spent. I know they're expensive. You're going to get sticker shock. Don't freak out. In the time it saves you efficiency wise, the ROI makes sense. If Carrie is watching this, I'll say our return on investment of time and effort. It's just a good thing to have. Benchmark for me is like if you have 3 or more distributors, it's probably a good thing to look at, most likely, but it's up to you. Middle of the road stuff. These are Insightly, Repsly, Outfield, HubSpot. Another one is Salesforce. Another one is Pipedrive. These are simple like sales CRMs that have mobile interfaces as well. They are not specifically beverage focused. There is one out there from Dave Clark up in the Pacific Northwest. He's got a program called Craft CRM that is beverage focused. It's sort of middle of the road in terms of capabilities and price. And then finally, you have like a very simple DIY beginner. I'm just getting used to tracking this kind of stuff. Just use a Google Sheet. It's fine. Or you could use a Google form. like pull it up on your browser on your phone. It's a little clunky, but like then it feeds into a spreadsheet. That's fine. Just get progress over perfection, folks. All right. So what kind of data should we be tracking in these wonderful software solutions and on our spreadsheets? It's the things like the activities that fall along the path of the pipeline, right? The name of the account, right? What the heck, who did you talk to, right? The date of when you actually talk to them. Now, the reason it says account touch and not account visit is because this could be digital, it could be physical. So I like to use the term account touch instead of account visit because I don't want to confuse anybody with like physical versus remote. We live in a digital world now. Sales are now digital. It is still about relationships though. So don't get me wrong. I'm not I think you can always find a nice balance between like in-person physical sales to build relationships backed up with remote like digital sales to make better use of your time. So the name of the account, the date of the account touch, the type of visit it was, email, in person, whatever. Also, I'm losing my voice. Hang on. What you talked about, for God's sakes. Why the hell did you even go in there? Was it to introduce yourself? Was it to drop off a sample, to give them a price sheet, to do a promo, whatever it is? It's the reason why you were there. Do you need to follow up with them? I hope that you do. I would hope that every account touch that you track in this kind of thing would be to say, yes, I do need to follow up with them next week, next month, next quarter, next year. I don't care the frequency, but I do want you to follow up with them. Otherwise, that's a wasted visit. Now, if you get to a dead end, unfortunately, there were quite a few people that shut down that didn't make it through COVID. We're still in it. Don't get me wrong. We're not at the end of it, but that didn't quite make it through like the shutdowns and everything. If that account is closed, yes, that's going to be closed loop, right? You aren't going to have a follow-up, but that's about the only time that you probably shouldn't have one. Different things about your accounts, right? Account attributes. Is it on or off premise? What market segment is it? Is it, a restaurant? Is it a gastropub? Is it a grocery store? Is it a fancy grocery store like Whole Foods? Any of those? Is it a package store? A gas station for all of you gunning for C stores? Those are the kind of things that will help you sort of get an idea of where your market share is out and about, and what your distribution footprint looks like. You could also put, is it a key account or is it not a key account? If you want to get real fancy, you have account classifications. So like A accounts or key accounts, right? Those are really important. Maybe B is like middle of the road. Maybe C is like needs some more nurturing. Maybe D is nothing but cold calls that you're not selling to. So could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, however, important, in the middle, whatever you want to call it. Also, you need buyer preferences. So like, are they only there on Tuesdays? Can I only go talk to them after 4 p.m. because it's on-premise bar and they sleep until noon? Like it's those kind of things that you need to know. Also, this is a big one. When they usually place an order, especially if you're self-distro. Now, if you're aligned with a wholesaler, that distributor rep will know when to punch their order. But if you're doing self-distro, that's really important for you to know what their order date is. And they're probably going to ask you when you can get product there. It's also great if you want to get a little fancier. Are they price sensitive? Do they like discounts? Is that even legal in your state? What does their customer base look like? All that kind of stuff. So if you want to get really, really fancy, honestly, is that you could put a question in there like, did you get a commitment? Did they say like, yes, I'll take a keg of your double IPA, a half barrel or something, right? You want to write that down and then make sure that it makes it there. A little bit easier to do that in self-distro, but if you're aligned with a wholesaler, that's something very important to track because you want to make sure that those commitments are getting filled. Of course, my office phone rings when I'm presenting, of course. Anyways, but why is this so important? It allows you to improve your relationship with that account and that buyer because you know stuff about them. You actually, what this says to them is I give a shit about you because I came in and I did my homework ahead of time. It allows you to prepare for your follow-up visits. okay, I gave them samples last time, so this time I'm going to go in and give them a price sheet, and we're going to talk about what would actually be a good fit for their budget and for their shelf set, right? It creates intention for your sales calls. When we talk about route planning, we talk about route planning with purpose. It's not spray and pray. It's not like I'm in Colorado, by the way. I'm going to go to Boulder today and I'm just going to drive around and look for gas stations and maybe I can sell some stuff to them today. That's not the case. That's what we don't need to be doing that, basically. It also allows you to see where accounts are in their buying stage, right? So say you get sick, you can't go to work for like 2 weeks and somebody else has to cover your route. If you have this stuff recorded, that person that's helping out can come in and say, I can see Julie dropped off a sales sheet at this place, but she said she would follow up with samples. So I need to make sure that I've got to go this week and drop off samples because I don't want that buyer to think that we don't care about them. So anyways, just some reasons why you need to be tracking this kind of stuff. Okay. Leaky pipeline. Yes, it says like game over. Like, absolutely. Right. When you have a break in your pipeline, and hopefully, you can put 2 and 2 together and see what that break actually means, what the leak actually means. If I introduce myself to an account and I never go back in and follow up, that's a break, right? It disrupts the flow of the sales process. If I say I'm going to follow up with samples and I don't, it's a leak in the pipeline. I have lost that opportunity. I have now created a disconnect between myself and the buyer, and it is going to be more difficult for me to gain their trust and to get that opportunity back again. Don't believe me? Go out in the market sometime. Just ask some random, people at liquor stores, grocery stores, bars and restaurants, what bugs you the most about supplier sales reps? I would almost guarantee you that one of the first things they say is when they don't follow up on doing something that they're supposed to do or that they say they're going to do. That is such a big problem. And that is a huge leak in their pipeline that they aren't able to recognize because you aren't tracking a process of this kind of stuff. You aren't paying attention to it, right? And what that leads to is a loss of opportunities. It leads to weak relationships, right? Out in the market. It could occur early in the process if you never consider somebody a good target. You never give them a chance. You're judging accounts off of demographics instead of psychographics, which is their buying preferences and habits, right? Instead of male, female, location, income levels, things like that. It could happen in the middle where you aren't giving them the information that they need to make a good buying decision. It could happen at the end. You could go through all of this, right? And ask for the sale and they bring something in and then you ghost them. I don't know why you would do that, but if you ghost them, they're not going to buy from you again. They want to feel supported, right? Especially these days with this many brands in the market. If you aren't paying attention to this kind of stuff, you are going to leak placements all over the place. Just gusher. Take a sledgehammer to that pipeline because it's going to be all over the place. And a lot of us cannot afford to do that at this point. We can't. That's just the way it is. So it also, this is another big thing. It is wasted time and it is lost revenue, which makes me want to cringe, makes me super sad. So finally, let's talk about some common fixes. And I'm going to remind everybody to put your questions in the chat box. And Andrew, hopefully can give me a check on time so that I have enough time to field questions. Sometimes I get really excited about this kind of stuff and I get on a soapbox and I can't stop talking. So I think Andrew knows that, thank goodness. But I tried to find a Mario mushroom. I don't want a cease and desist order. So, here we go. We got the second best thing. Canva's pretty good though. I'm not going to lie. Although the Mario down there is pretty, that's pretty like 8-bit stuff going on down here. It's okay. So common fixes for a leaky pipeline or a burst pipe or whatever you want to call it, right? Know how buyers make their purchasing decisions. Just start Googling stuff about the buying process, the buyer's journey, customer decision-making process, consumer purchasing science, like any of that stuff, right? Whether you realize it or not, there's so many like customers along the way. It will be really beneficial if you're doing sales to know how everybody buys along the road here. So your distributor is a customer. You need to know how they make a decision. If you don't have a distributor, then you skip to step B, right? Which is, how does that retail buyer, that on-premise buyer, that off-premise buyer, right? Like, how do they make a purchasing decision for their business? If you don't know, ask them. It's okay. Like, what do you have customers asking for? What's flying off the shelf? What's your slowest mover? Does anybody ever do a promo here? Like, do you enjoy using glassware? Like, there's like a million questions that you could ask, right? But know how that buying process works. It's also good for you to know how the consumer makes a purchase decision so that you can better merchandise your products. You can better do promos that fit with the kind of consumer and the customer base that's coming into that account. Know how that works, right? Second thing, know your customer. And these kind of go hand in hand, right? Your beer is not right for everybody. Just the way it is, right? You got the biggest challenge in sales is you got to figure out who is right for your product and vice versa. Like I said earlier, it's a value exchange, right? So you want this to be a nice value exchange between you and the distributor, you and the buyer, and then also making sure that it's coming off the shelf, that your velocity, your rate of sales is healthy, because it's a good match for the consumer that's going into that account. All right, use a CRM. I gave you a whole bunch of suggestions. Go for it. Just dive right in. Give it a shot. It's not something that will happen overnight. Know that this is building a new habit. It's going to take some time. It's like getting into a fitness routine. It's hard. Everybody understands that. It takes some time. It doesn't happen immediately. If you're a sales manager on this call and you're like, I need my sales reps to use a CRM, please know that's going to take time to build a new habit, but it's one that is well worth like waiting for. And then finally, making sure that you're collecting the right data. The key with CRMs is that they are garbage in, garbage out. It's kind of like your ERP system. It's nice if you have all these features, but if you don't put anything in it, or if you put the wrong data in it, you're going to get total garbage coming out the other end. It's the same thing with the CRM. If you put bad sales data in it at the beginning, you're going to get really crappy sales data out at the end, right? That's not going to do you any good in the market. So make sure that you're collecting some of the things that we talked about today and that you're using it consistently and that you're putting notes in there that are beneficial to the buying process. All right. I almost said process. I have a lot of Canadian friends right now, and I was real close to saying process just because I like the way that they say that. Okay. This is your level up badge that everybody got for this session today, and I hope it was well worth it. Thank you for having me today and listening to me ramble about the, I know talking about sales and the science of sales is not like bang, fireworks, like all, super flashy and exciting. But it is a skill that I think almost anyone in this industry needs to know, including back of the house folks. Even if you think it doesn't relate to you right away, it really does. We're all kind of working towards the same goal anyways. If you want to reach out to me, there's my contact info. I'm on all the social things too, if you want to ping me there. I have a super fun email community called The Bottleneck. I've been traveling, so I haven't sent something out in a while, but it's not a newsletter, but kind of fun, like stories and GIFs and things like that relate to like business principles. So that's kind of fun. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm just going to talk to you like a human, if that's okay. And at the same time, I will ask if anybody has questions about anything sales related. It doesn't have to be pipeline related. but I would love to field some questions if anybody wants to toss something in there. I see one for Laura. And let me take a look. Why do you think all of the RTDs, seltzers, kombucha, and other stuff is all kicking out beer shelf space, not spirits and not wine? I think because it's new, it's something that we call like shiny object syndrome or squirrel syndrome. Today's LDA consumer, which stands for legal drinking age, just so if y'all read industry publications and it says LDA, that's what that means. They are looking for something different. They have a real importance placed on like originality and, that they're like super special and, all this kind of stuff, right? William from Conzo, did you come? Thanks, bud. Thanks for being here. And so there's this like, I'm gonna do me, right? So there's this like crave for variety. There's also a crave for flavor. So when it comes to everything flavor forward is big right now. You'll see that a lot, like in industry like scan data and experts outside of me, not just me. I rely on data experts that are my friends and colleagues. And there's this movement towards flavor forward and also towards drinking occasions. So if you think about it, an RTD or a seltzer or an FMB is very like portable, right? Like we're always on the go. Spirits might not be like you have to have a glass and ice and you know what I mean? All the things. So it's a little bit more complicated. And then as far as like kombucha, seltzer, like we're getting all these different flavors. And so people are drinking across categories. And that's why we're kind of losing some shelf space because I don't want to say craft beer is like old hat, but we had this like meteoric rise, I like refer to as like the golden years from like 2011 to like 2017, 2018, before some of this new stuff started coming in. And people are used to seeing stuff now on the shelf, like an IPA or a double IPA or a lager or something like that. And so I think they're just mixing it up. Honestly, they're mixing it up. And I think we'll see that for a while. I also think some of the size and like style trends that we're seeing are because of the economy. They want more bang for their buck, consumer perception that has a lot to do with it. Thanks for asking that, Laura. That was good. And wine, canned wine is doing really well, but it's like you have to have a bottle opener and it's a big glass bottle and things like that. Although box wine is doing really well. Yeah, so that's it. Maybe we'll regain some of the seltzer space. Maybe. That would be nice. I wouldn't complain about that. All right. If anybody, Andrew, I couldn't find the link fast enough. I'm sorry. I was talking and I can't multitask. But I will pop back into the CBP group. I'll tell you what, I will link to my slide deck for people that want it. And then also that pipeline tool, because I think that would probably be helpful. But thank you again to all the sponsors for this. I think this whole virtual conference thing twice a year is amazing. Saves you on travel costs and you get just as good information as you were in person for a regular conference. So thank you to Andrew for doing this and allowing me to be here and to start your Monday morning with me. I greatly appreciate it. So if anybody has any questions or comments, please get a hold of me. I'm around anytime and hopefully I will see some of you sooner rather than later, but stick around. There is more good stuff coming and hopefully I will see you all soon. All right. Take care.